All right, everybody. Hello, 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 everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Get More Speaking Gigs show. I am your host, TR Garland, and I recognize some names of people that have showed up for this Get More Speaking Gigs show. And this is going to be an interesting dialogue between you, me, and my special guest expert, Dustin Mathews. And it's going to be interesting because we're going to start off by taking some people off of mute right now and sharing who you are, where you're dialing in from, and why the topic of Get More Speaking Gigs is relevant to you. So first off, let's take Barney off of mute. Barney, how are you?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
Fantastic. Barney, can you share with me and the remainder of the community that's live on this call where you're dialing in from, what title you classify yourself as, meaning are you strictly a speaker, or are you an author, coach, consultant, or service-based professional that wants to learn how to speak or give presentations in order to grow your business?
Thank you. It's great to meet you in person. We've had a few communications with the emails over the last year or so. My real business is about delivering content, training, education. I would call myself a business strategist that does some other things connected to it, and that's prepare the people part of an organization to be able to be effective and profitable in a business. Speaking for me is something I've done some of over the years as a Toastmaster years ago, and recently in the last couple of years at kind of a local level, and I realized the need to speak to be able to get some brand recognition and some name recognition so that it lends credibility to what you have to say. So.
Okay, and where are you dialing in from, Barney?
Sorry, I thought I said it. Stockton, California.
Stockton. Absolutely fantastic, fantastic. Well, a warm welcome to you, and if you'll hold tight, we'll just kind of go through, the other list here and see if people would like to be brave and say hello. So, Audria Richmond. Audria, how are you? It's great to see your name.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I love your spunk. I love your energy. Audria, I know exactly who you are, but will you share with everybody else who showed up for the Get More Speaking Gig show who you are, where you're dialing in from, what you do, and why are you showing up to, a live training with my friend Dustin called Get More Speaking Gigs?
Well, first off, I remember you from the event that I spoke at. You were teaching about LinkedIn training and teaching us how to get our LinkedIn profile. And since then, I'm pretty excited and pretty happy about my LinkedIn profile. And I know the speaking circuit is always changing, and speaking is always going to be a thing you can do. So my reasoning for being here is to see if I can learn something new, something that I probably don't already know, and maybe find a unique approach to getting speaking gigs that's not being taught anywhere else, something that's unique and creative. So my name is Audria Richmond. I'm a personal branding and marketing genius, and I work directly with entrepreneurs to teach them how to build their personal brand visually and strategically.
Okay, excellent, awesome. Well, a warm welcome to you. Thank you for saying hello. It's great to keep the friendly conversation going with amazing people in my community like yourself, Audria.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to, not the A's, but let's go to the T's here. Tina, you're off of mute. Will you quickly say hello, where you're dialing in from, and why are you showing up for a training called Get More Speaking Gigs?
Hi, so I'm Tina. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. I'm from Washington State. I'm a virtual assistant, and I'm on the call because I want to be able to offer to my people speaking gigs and finding them speaking gigs. So I got to learn how to do that in order to offer it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's definitely a different reason than maybe many of the other people on the call, but it's a very relevant reason. So a warm, warm welcome to you, Tina. And I also recognize your name, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. All right, let's take Rebecca off of mute real quickly. We'll say hello to a few more people. Rebecca, how are you?
Oh, just a moment, sorry.
It's okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Simply just say hello to everybody else that showed up on the call. Tell us where you're dialing in from and why are you showing up for a training that's being hosted by me, but I'm not going to do much of the talking. I brought one of my close personal friends, Dustin Mathews, on the line to talk about the power of presentation and the power of presentation skills. So share with us, Rebecca, where are you dialing in from and why would you show up to a training like this?
So, hello everyone. I am dialing in from Chicago, and I'm joining the training to glean more insights as to how I can expand my speaking business, and I thank you for the opportunity to do so.
Super, super. Well, a warm welcome from the West Coast to Chicago. I actually grew up in St. Charles, Illinois, and in my 20s I lived in Lincoln Park, right downtown off of Halstead, Webster, Diversey, all the fun areas. So a warm welcome from the West Coast. I've lived out here since 1998, but I am a Chicagoan at heart. So welcome to you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's say hello to two quick more people here. So let's say hi to John Williams. John, how are you?
Hello, TR. How are you?
Great to hear from you. Just so everybody knows, John, you're calling in from where?
Holland in Europe.
Yay! We've got our first international contingent. And wait a second.
Thank you.
That's my live studio audience welcoming
Yes.
one of my clients on the call. John,
Yes, I can recognize it.
So Dustin's on the call right now, and I want him to hear crystal clear from one of my spotlight clients that's going through the Leveraging LinkedIn program right now. Why are you showing up to a training hosted by me, but technically led by Dustin, on the topic of Get More Speaking Gigs?
Well, that's quite easy. You're always talking about speaking gigs. And in your email, I read something about presentations, and now I've done a lot of those things here in Europe, but I want to learn from the best how it's done overseas.
Ah, absolutely.
I'm going international now, as you know.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, Dustin owns a company called Speaking Empire that does have many international clients themselves, but also they themselves do speaking internationally. So it's a great place for you to be, John. It's great to see that you're here.
Very interesting.
Okay, so let's say hello to one other person here, and let's take Charlotte off. Charlotte, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
Fantastic, fantastic. Charlotte, will you share with the others on the call where you're dialing in from, and why would you be showing up to a training call called the Get More Speaking Gig Show?
I'm calling in from Chicago, and I'm showing up because there's always something more to learn, and any tips that I can get as to how to present what I have to say clearly without beating around the bush is something that I find really essential, whether I'm speaking or whether I'm simply making a marketing phone call.
Super, fantastic. Well, it's great to see your name, great to have you here, and I'm excited. I think this is the right place for you. I think this is the right place for Andrea Borg, Andy Scott, Audria Richmond, Barney Kramer, Brenda Bryant, Cindy Levy, Consuelo Davis. It's great to see your name, Consuelo. Dan, you're here. Fiona, George, Giovanna, John Williams, Judy Parsons, Karen Rowell, Keith Johnston, Nikki Cepeda. Great to see your name, Nikki. Randy Powell. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. It's like a family reunion of some of my clients that went through my program, 6 to 12 months ago. Rebecca, Robert, Shavana, more. Great to see you here. Tina, Veronica, and the list goes on and on and on. So let me simply say a warm welcome to Dustin. Dustin, why don't we take you off of mute? And Dustin, if you could share your webcam, let's get you up on the screen.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you crystal clear. Let me actually stop my webcam and see if you can share your webcam. You should be able to.
I should be able to, but I'm on a computer where I've had some issues with it, so I do apologize. I would love to show people my face because the one that you have that I can see right now, that's a outdated photo of me, and so yes, I look considerably older than that.
Okay, well, super, super. Well, why don't I keep myself off of the webcam right now to balance it out so that people can strictly stay focused on the actual topic at hand. And that topic at hand is get more speaking gigs, right? Now, you and I have known each other going on 6 years now. Going on 6 years. The entirety of my relationship with you, you have been a co-founder of the company Speaking Empire. And the name of your company pretty much tells what you do. But what I'd like to do is simply give a brief introduction on the professional side of things, but blend it with the personal side of things, my personal relationship with you, so that all of the people on this call right now can relate to you as much as I relate to you. Does that sound like a plan, Dustin?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's have some fun. And I just want to say I'm excited to be here. I'm thrilled. I loved listening in to everyone, especially international and Chicago. I caught the tail of that. And so I'm really excited, and I promise to give you as much value as we can pack in and as much time as we got.
Yeah, and you know what? Nobody typed any questions in the question and answer pane, and since I've taken myself off the webcam, what I'd love for everybody to do is go to the chat box right now. Go to the chat box, because we're going to keep some people on mute temporarily, and type in where you are dialing in from. You know, let us know where you are dialing in from, and I'm actually going to mute everybody here. Yep, everybody's muted except for Dustin. There we go. Dustin's off of mute. And just go to the chat box and type in where you're dialing in from, so that we can give some shout outs to the people that are, you know, outside of North America, so that we can pay some extra special attention to them, because we are a warm and caring and compassionate community. So we've got Judy from Atlanta, Barney from Stockton, Alfreda from Chicago, Daniel's from Vancouver, John is from the Netherlands, Rebecca from Chicago, Shantae from Albuquerque, Randy Powell from Temecula, California, you know, Tina's from Washington State, Veronica King, yes, from the UK, I remember your name, Veronica, absolutely, and Fiona's from Ireland. So, Dustin, we do have an international contingency here. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So with that said, let me take a deep breath. Let me pause and reset myself so that we can follow as structured an agenda as possible. Now, I said as possible, and the reason is because what we want to do is make this as interactive and as valuable as possible for those that have shown up. With that said, we want to stay on track, because I know that Dustin has a wealth of knowledge, you know, to share. So let me first start off by giving a backstory on the Get More Speaking Gigs show itself. And I'll show my webcam for this. The Get More Speaking Gigs show started years ago, in which I had the opportunity of tapping into my network of individuals like Brian Tracy, Laura Langmeyer, Les Brown, Mary Morrissey, T. Harv Eker, the founder of BNI, Dr. Ivan Meisner, and the list goes on and on and on of people that are Hall of Fame speakers. And I interviewed them about their experience speaking and how speaking has changed through the years, so that they could offer relevant bits of information to my community. So in other words, I was acting as a liaison. I was acting as a liaison between my network and my community. And I took the Get More Speaking Gigs show offline for about a year, year and a half, because it is a commitment to host people and make sure that you continue to deliver value. And what I made the decision to bring the Get More Speaking Gigs show on back this year for a reason, and I expanded who I was going to invite onto the show to people that sometimes might not be household names, but have very relevant bits of information and systems and principles and frameworks to teach you, my community. And one of those individuals whose names you might not recognize is Dustin Mathews. And Dustin is amazing at behind the scenes and on stage in helping people craft presentations that influence the audience to action. Can everybody go to the chat box right now and type in yes or no if you want to learn how to influence your audience into action? Just a quick yes or no. Do you want to learn how to influence your audience into action? And Shantae, Veronica, Judy, Barney, Daniel, John, Tina, Alfreda, Rebecca, Randy, Rico, Fiona, absolutely. Well, you're in the right place. You're in the right place because I've known Dustin personally for 5 to 6 years, and you know what you're about to learn from him could very well dramatically transform your life and your business. And I know that that's a powerful statement, and I know that it's the wording that I used in the email to invite you to this call, but I sincerely, sincerely mean it. Of all the people that I know in the speaker, author, coaching, consulting space, Dustin is someone who I've become very, very close with. And I become close with him because I respect him professionally and I respect him personally. On the professional side of things, think about this. Right out of school, right out of college, right out of university, Dustin helped take a company to $14 million and number 35 on Inc. magazine's fastest growing private companies. That is a feat and accomplishment all unto itself. And then after that, he follows it up with a business partner and creates Speaking Empire that is focused on empowering speakers, authors, coaches, and service-based professionals how to use the mode of speaking, the mode of presenting, whether it be live or virtual, to grow your business. And his clients are some of the most recognized names that you hear out there. You know, Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington, you know, Robert Allen, New York Times bestselling author, infomercial star Dean Graziosi, you know, X Games host and actress Forbes Riley, and the list goes on and on and on. And so I want to stop on the professional side of things and say something personal about Dustin, and then let's get into the meat and potatoes about today's call. On the personal side of things, I've met many, many individuals in the speaker, author, coaching space, and Dustin has always been on the level. He's always been what you see is what you get. And that's what my audience expects. My audience expects what you see is what you get. So with that said, you know, I've given a little bit about your background. Dustin, do you care to elaborate a little bit about your background, or would you like to simply go into the content portion of the Get More Speaking Gig show?
TR, well, thank you. Amazing introduction. I really appreciate it. And I like to tell people, you know, I'm an everyday guy. And so the only thing I'll say is this is, before we get started here, we can get right to the meat and potatoes. I really ought not even be here. And what I mean by that is, you know, I was one of those individuals early on at university where I found a way to actually get out of having to take the class that everyone has to take, which is public speaking, at least at my school. And so it's been my journey along the way to step into that, to share my message, really to help people. And I found speaking very effective doing it. And so one day I was forced to speak and actually get up on a stage, dreading it, hating it, wishing you know, I wasn't there. And then once I did, I said, oh, wow. This is powerful. People are taking me seriously. Yes, we're making sales. And so that became my passion. And really that's my mission, is to really encourage those that are sitting on the sidelines. And you know, you're here because you guys have identified yourself to want to be on the spotlight. But really that is my mission, is really to help entrepreneurs and coaches and other folks really just share their message and share it in a big way. So with that said, let's get into it.
Okay, excellent. Absolutely. I mean, I am absolutely 100% confident that the people who are on the call live, that they are supposed to be here. And we're going to do as much as possible to interact with them as possible. Because I see their names, you know, Alfreda, Andrea, Andy, Consuelo, Dan, Fiona, Keith, Karen, you know, Linda, Veronica, Tina, Shavana. I see your names. I recognize your names. Many of you I've got relationships with, and the reason why I pulled Dustin on the call today is to share his experience and almost filter his experience over, you know, the last decade of being in this industry to help you so that you can create a personal relationship with Dustin as well. And one thing that you may not know about Dustin, and I don't have the image to pull up on the screen right now, is that Dustin just released a book. And that book is called The No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations. And he wants to help you become a fearless presenter, whether it be live or whether it be virtual. So, you know, you've got this book out about presentations, but according to my memory, Dustin, you've got a little bit intriguing and unusual beginning to giving presentations. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I sort of hinted at it a little bit in the beginning here. So, you know, the fleshed out memory of it is I remember being at school and I had to take that class that I described, public speaking, and I remember walking in to the auditorium, and it was set up, TR, just like a theater. So you've got the stage that's raised, you've got the cascading seats, and like, you know, like you would go to a play or something, or, you know, watch a musical. And I remember walking in, there was 300 kids there, all college kids. And so the professor walks out and says, hey, listen, you're going to have to get 10 presentations. 3 are going to be in front of this group, and 7 are going to be breakout, you know, smaller groups. And so I looked around and I was looking for like other people's, you know, mouths hanging open like mine was, and no one seemed to be open, and I guess they all knew they had to take it and just kind of plow through it. And so I decided I wasn't going to take that class, and so I retreated. I left, and the fear had gotten to me. And so, you know what, I said in my head, I'm going to go sign up for a different class. I'm going to go find a smaller section, or this is when virtual classes became popular online. So I said, I'll do this virtual public speaking thing. And so I sign up the next time, and I find myself in that same part of campus. I find myself in that same room, and it's the same pitch. And it's 300 students, and the teacher says the same thing. And so I'd like to tell you, TR, I conquered my you know, fear in that moment, but I bailed again. And I think it's funny because in life we have these opportunities, and I know we all can relate on this call to having these opportunities. And so I decided in that moment I wasn't going to do it. And I became so motivated to not take this class that I went out and I started talking to students, I started talking to teachers, and heck, I read the student handbook, and no one reads the student handbook. And so basically I found a legal loophole that got me out of taking the class. And so it's funny because obviously, as TR you mentioned, you know, I run a company called Speaking Empire because of my journey and having to do it one day. And that's sort of how I got my rocky start into the speaking arena or realm.
Yeah, I was actually going to wait for you to complete, but I don't know how many other people kind of caught the nuance, the nuance that's happening here, which is here we are, you know, I'm introducing Dustin as an expert in the speaking industry, both on stage and behind the stage. And, you know, he's written a book called The No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations, and here he is sharing with you, not 1, but 2 times he tried to get out of a class because he was terrified of giving presentations. Did anybody, can you all go to the chat box and type in nuance, N-U-A-N-C-E, if you caught that little nuance that here we are, you know, I'm propping up my friend as an expert in the field, and then he's sharing that he was terrified. He was terrified. Yeah, you know, Judy says it's irony. It's total irony. So we've clearly pointed out loud and clear that you were terrified of giving presentations, and now you run a company called Speaking Empire that teaches others how to do this. So
yeah, that's the game, TR. I think that's life. You know, like we get presented with these opportunities, and in that moment I ran from it. I kept running from it, and you know, it knocked on the door loud enough, and you know, sometimes we answer them and sometimes we don't. But I think, you know, that's the game, and I really, you know, I want people to sitting there to be thinking, you know, that's your opportunity. I know we're here to talk about how to get more gigs and, you know, presentations, but just look for those. I mean, there's presentation opportunities around us all the time, and business opportunities. It's just, are we answering them?
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I can't quite remember exactly all the wording that I used in my invitation with regards to this Get More Speaking Gig show, but I'm going to make an assumption that not many people on the call are familiar with you, familiar with Speaking Empire, or familiar with your new book. You know, I happen to be familiar with your new book, and I know that you make some claims in that book, you know, that some could consider outrageous, you know, bold claims. In other words, do you personally honestly believe that one presentation can make you wealthy?
Absolutely, Tiara, I absolutely do. And I want everyone to think about this. So I've got a couple ideas for everyone to consider here. And so let's take a step back, though. When I say presentation, I mean everything in life is a presentation. The challenge is most people never think about it. So obviously selling, if you're selling a product, you're selling yourself, you sort of get that. But even fulfillment, or how your office looks, or if you're out raising money, everything in life is a presentation. I even think of Disney World, or in your neck of the woods, Disneyland. And so everything from when you step into that line to buy the ticket and it slowly inches along and moves, well, at other places it doesn't move at all. And so it is a presentation of an experience. And when you get on the boat, at least here in Orlando, and you float over to the gates, like you see the excitement build, you see the castle come into focus. And so when you start to think of it like that, everything in life is a presentation, how you dress, right? And I know I'm using that, a little loose here in a room full of speakers or a webinar full of communicators, but I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Even if you're doing a one-on-one sit-down, what are we doing to influence? What are we doing to present ourselves? And at the end of the day, it's what do you want to have occur? What is your end in mind? And so with that sort of frame, yes, one presentation can make you rich. Here in the United States, if you look at the current president, you may like him, you may not, he put on one big heck of a presentation or a couple smaller presentations all around the country and in the media, and he was able to, get the highest elected office in the land by being such a polarizing character, but by giving a presentation. And so if you think about it that way, yes, he was already wealthy, but he got something that's the most highly coveted thing here in the United States. For some people, it is that role. From a monetary standpoint, to balance it out, so I'm not just talking about good old Trump here, let's talk about Warren Buffett. And so recently I read an article in it. Warren Buffett claims that his big rise to wealth and power was his decision to take a public speaking course to figure out how to communicate, and not just communicate, but communicate persuasively. And Warren now, obviously, he does annual events, he speaks, but even more than just the speaking, because I know you guys get that, even more than that is when he communicates by putting out a shareholder, document, he gets people excited, and he's known for that. And so, yes, it's my belief that one presentation can make you rich, by monetary standards. It can make your business grow. It can get you to the things that you want in life. And TR, as you mentioned, in the book, we talk about some of those examples, as it relates to a speaker, people that are doing it in different niches and in different parts of the world that are giving presentations and building rather big followings in companies.
Cool. Thanks, for going, down line item by line item as to a couple different scenarios that people can start to paint in their mind. And one thing that I'd like everybody to do right now is go to the chat box and please type in 3 words. And those 3 words are perception is reality. Please, everybody on the call, go to the chat box and type in perception is reality. And the reason why I want you to type that in is because I'd like you to commit to memory. Repetition causes people to remember things. And when you type in perception is reality, that really, truly is the core concept that Dustin just shared, which is when you've got to take a step back and realize that everything in life is a presentation. And we are all speakers, authors, coaches, service-based professionals, consultants, or holistic practitioners on the call right now. And you might think that you don't need to be quote-unquote on unless you're on stage, whether it be live or virtual. But what Dustin's sharing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin, what you're sharing is for them to adopt a different mindset. And that mindset is that everything in life is a presentation. Is that the correct core concept that you wanted me and my community to get from that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, well, let's take this as an example. I want everyone to have like a breakthrough. I want everyone to get to massive value here. So like, if you look at this, right, I'm here, I'm giving you a message. However, this is not the only thing that has had influence on you. TR is telling you to engage and type, right? So that's during the presentation. That's the message. But if you think about it, TR sent out emails that were given to him by me. I had given him some copy. I'd given him my bio. And so even before you showed up here today, you had some idea of who I was or what you were going to learn on this. And so if you think about it, by me giving him tools and resources, I was able to help him influence. I was able to influence through that channel, so that when you came onto this special show, onto the Get More Gig show, that you had an understanding, and there was already an influence point. There's already a value being built. And so if you start to think about it, it's not just the presentation you deliver, it's what happens before and after. Your whole world will change.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And because, I want to make sure that this is much of a learning lesson for the community as well, I'd like everybody to write down another 2 words, type it into the chat box. The first word is authority, and the second word is assets. ASSETS. Authority, assets. And the reason why I want you to type, and please go to the chat box and type in authority, assets. The reason why I want you to type those 2 words in is because that's what I call your speaker bio, or images that convey your authority or your expert status. An authority asset would be an image of Dustin's book and the fact that it has quickly become a bestseller. I've got clients on this call right now in which we help them run not 1 but 2 best-selling author campaigns. And those clients have images of their books, and when they achieve that status, and when we got them picked up by major media organizations like the Seattle Times, Miami Herald, ABC. So what Dustin's saying is basically prepare and plan ahead of time, ahead of your presentation, whether it be live or virtual. And I'm going 1 level deeper and saying, okay, in addition to planning and preparing, I want you to make sure that you, after today's call, realize that you must have a repository. You must have like a virtual folder that consists of your authority assets. All right, excellent. So I don't want to digress away from your specific mode of training my community, Dustin, but I did want people to understand, number 1, perception is reality. Number 2, plan and prepare before your presentation. And you can plan and prepare before your presentation by amassing your authority assets. So with that said, I alluded to some other big names of individuals that you've worked with, Dustin. What I'd like to do is have you share just 1 or 2 of those individuals that you've worked with, but not from a bragging perspective. I'd like you to invest more time explaining what you learned from them and or what they learned from you as it relates to today's topic at hand.
Sure, absolutely. One guy comes to mind that we worked with that most people ought to know, or at least they know the show name, and that's Kevin Harrington from the show Shark Tank. And this is a classic example, because what he does is he was the father or grandfather of infomercials. He's one of the first guys to come on the scene and record infomercials in the 80s when the airwaves became deregulated. And so he put together a presentation, if you will, a video presentation, an infomercial that generates billions of dollars in his career, his lifetime on TV, to drive people to act. And so it's funny, because what I learned from him is there is a format, there is a process for putting together what he has to put, which is roughly 27.5 minutes for a 30-minute show, to get people to pick up the phone and buy a product off of TV. And so I learned from him there is a format and structure, and it's very similar to some of the things that we teach at Speaking Empire, that when you give a talk and you want to drive opt-ins, you want to get people to sign up for appointments, or you want to sell a product from a webinar stage, there is a process that you go through. And so what I'd like to think that Kevin learned from us is, you know, in 27 and a half minutes, it's got to be tight. There's some things that you do. In 90 minutes, when you speak from a stage, you have a lot more liberties. Plus, you could do certain things that you would do live. And so, you know, Kevin came and we worked with him and we helped him build out a presentation to really launch one of the brands that he's working to show entrepreneurs and inventors really how to take their idea from the napkin and basically turn it into millions of dollars, just like people do on Shark Tank. And so, you know, that's one example. And, you know, that's a big name, and I get not everyone is a big name or household name, and so I get sometimes that's intimidating too. So there's another guy in particular. He's professional services. He's a chiropractor, and so he's down here in Florida. He's just a little bit south of us, about 45 minutes away. His name's Dr. Jeremiah Joseph. And one of the things that he does is lunch and learns. And so here he is, a chiropractor, wants to grow his practice. And if you know many folks in professional services, you know, they kind of have to like be persuaded to get up and speak in front of others. And so he started putting together lunch and learns. And what he does, he advertises in the newspaper. He puts in inserts. And he gets people to come to a lunch or a dinner, and he does these lunch and learns, and he sells them into coming to his office where he can diagnose them, he can show them the benefits, he can, you know, prescribe things. And so here's a chiropractor down here in a sleepy town, quite frankly, south of Tampa, and, you know, he's got a 7-figure practice all from just delivering presentations. And so the big thing that we helped with him was, you know, if you teach too much, you get into trouble, meaning that there's an art, there's a science to selling and getting people excited to take an action, which is completely different from just being a professor and teaching. And so the big takeaway is, are you entertaining enough in your talk? Are you being memorable? Are you telling enough jokes? And so if you're not, be thinking about that, because that gets you invited back. That gets you more gig. That's what makes you viral.
Can I ask a question to the community members here? So I'd like you to go into the chat box and type in whether or not, actually, give yourself a grade on a scale of 0 to 10, how relatable and or engaging are you with your audience, whether it be live or virtual? Do you believe, on a scale of 0 to 10, how relatable and engaged are you with your ideal, with your audience? So we've got an 8, a 9, an 8, a 7, an 8, a 3, a 9, an 8, a 5, a 10. Someone's very, very bold, an 8 or a 9. That's interesting. That's actually higher than what I expected, Dustin, because especially considering you just gave an example about professional services on how some people are absolutely amazing at what they do, yet they haven't yet developed the skills on becoming a fearless presenter. Are those a little higher than what you thought as well?
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, I mean, this is your audience, TR. This is you know, a very special group, you know, somebody that's already interested in speaking. So when I speak to entrepreneurial groups or do shows on webinars, I would find them to be a lot lower. But I think you've done well in training and supporting the community. That's a testament to you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that, and I do recognize many of the names on the call and have personal relationships with them. So yeah, I guess I'm caught off guard, and you weren't. so that's amazing. So
you deserve the credit.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm blushing right now. Let me take a trainer timeout, and let's summarize just a few key points to make sure that everybody, you know, continues to remember these concepts that Dustin and I are talking about, and you commit them to memory. You know, number 1 is perception is reality. You know, number 2, on that same line, please take away a different mindset that everything in life is a presentation. Number 2 is prepare and plan. Prepare and plan prior to your presentation. You know, and the sub concept there is to amass your own authority assets and make sure that you've got relevant authority assets for a variety of different venues. Meaning there might be certain authority assets that are relevant if you're speaking in person, such as having a pull-up banner, you know, that conveys who you worked with, or some testimonials, you know, that you could put into a brochure that you could hand out or already have on the tables of the people in the audience. Whereas a virtual authority asset, might be something similar to what you're seeing on your screen right now, which is look under my name. I've got these seals, these certifications, these awards that I've won, like, the Wall Street Journal Award and #1 bestseller status and things like that. And then the third concept that I am drawing from this conversation is make sure that you understand that your presentation, you shouldn't just wing it, that you should have a format and a framework to your presentation. So what I'd love for you to do is write down a to-do list, to begin, writing down a to-do list. And #1 on your to-do list would be amass your own authority assets. I'll repeat myself. #1 on your to-do list is to amass your own authority assets for both live and virtual platforms. #2 would be choose your preference. Which do you prefer? Dustin spoke about infomercials. Dustin spoke about speaking, main stage speaker at huge conferences. Dustin spoke about holding lunch and learns or small workshops. And then I've spoken about webinars or interviews. Which is your preference? Let's actually ask that question right now. Could you go to the chat box right now and type in which of the platforms are you most competent in today? Live or virtual? Let's start there. Type in the word live or virtual. So Judy says live, Randy says live, Charlotte says live, Barney says live, Veronica, John Williams, Fiona live. DJ says webinars of the live workshop. Live. Okay, so we've got a large contingency of people, Dustin, on the call that feel like they're more competent on the live side of things. So let's break that down and dig a little bit deeper. Are you more confident hosting small lunch and learns or workshops, or do you feel that you're competent, on a stage? So type in workshops or stage.
Love it.
Workshop. So Linda says workshop, Audrey says both, DJ says either, Fiona says workshops, Randy says both, John Williams and Judy say workshops, Marsha and Keith say both, Veronica says both, Rebecca says either. Okay, interesting. Interesting. This gives, the more you engage with us by answering some of my questions, the more that we can cater today's conversation, to your specific needs. So thank you so much for participating and engaging as much as you are. So what I'd like to do right now is have Dustin, dig a little bit deeper on some concepts, from his book and from his experience, as a fantastic behind the scenes and on stage speaker. So, could you discuss the concept of choreography? It's beyond just presentations, but choreography. I think that this concept that people are absolutely going to find incredible value from. So if you're on the call right now, stay right there and let's listen to how Dustin answers this question. Dustin, elaborate on the concept of choreography and why is it important?
TR, man, I love the energy, and I agree. Like, I believe this to be the most valuable part. The whole call is valuable, but I believe this to be the most valuable part. And the reason why is most people never give thought to this. And I look at my partner, Dave, who's one of the world's top speakers out there, great communicator, and I suspect other people based on the scores that you've given yourself, consider yourself a pretty darn good communicator. And so what I think about is the best communicators are great. They give their message, they think about the stories, they spend so much time into the craft. However, because they're spending so much time there, they're not thinking about the influence points that I touched about earlier. And so I want to share my story with you in the fact that when I first got started in this, I was a copywriter. I was a marketing guy and still am to this day. And I didn't really want to do the speaking, as I've identified earlier. And so I always had to, put marketing out to influence and to get the result that I wanted. And so I really came to rely on influencing people a whole lot before. And so, I think about a play. I think about an opera. You look at the performers and how many hours these folks put in to practice, everything from the performer itself to the lighting crew to the sound engineer to the ushers, how it's all going to flow to create one heck of an experience. And so when you think about everything being choreographed, then your mind starts to change. And the reason why you want to do that is if you want consistent results with your presentations or in your life, you really ought to choreograph things. If you look at, you know, these performers, I mean, they choreograph to make an experience magical for us every single time, putting hundreds of hours. And again, I get it. For most business people and entrepreneurs or business owners, you know, they're busy running a business, and so like to give a lot of thought to this, you know, doesn't really occur. And so here's what I noticed. One day when we were growing the company Foreclosures Daily that made the Inc. 500, as you mentioned earlier, TR, if we had a bad speaker get up and speak at an event, we would make maybe a very little or sometimes no sales. And yet, if we followed up on the phone, we would always get sales after a bad speaker. Now, with a good speaker, what would take place, what would happen is we would make a lot of sales, obviously, when they spoke, but even if he made a lot of sales or she made a lot of sales, when we followed up on the phone, we would almost always get at least one sale, so no matter the scenario. And so what that tells me is that you've got to do stuff before, you've got to do stuff after in order to really maximize every gig. And if you really think about it, like if you are a professional speaker and you're speaking 50 times a year, that's a lot, you know, and you know, 50 times is a big number. Most of us aren't speaking that level, and so when we go out to the world and speak and share our message, we really ought to maximize every time. Like if you're going to be away from your family, if you're going to get on that plane and battle what it's like, you know, dealing with airports, you really ought to think about, well, how can I really maximize this here? And so what we're finding nowadays with choreography and setting things up, and remind me, TR, to share with you the hotel hijack. It's one of my new favorite strategies. But when we're leveraging this idea of choreography and doing replays on webinars or doing follow-up sequences after speaking live at an event and moving people into other media, we're finding that we can get double the sales, sometimes even more. So if you think about it, most speakers just focus on the performance and they're not thinking about the follow-up afterwards. And so when you do that, you leave money on the table. And so with proper choreography, you can really capture and make much more impact and grow sales and grow your business a whole lot more effectively.
So, Dustin, I know that you're not aware that I'm going to share this particular point here right now, but because I've known Dustin for 5 to 6 years now, and because I've spoken on his stage and I've attended every single West Coast event that Speaking Empire has hosted up and down the coast, you know, from San Diego all the way to Seattle in the last, you know, 5 to 6 years, I've seen how amazing Dustin and the entire Speaking Empire team is at choreography. And one thing that I learned from Dustin and his team is, actually, you know what? You know, let's stay on track. Who wants to learn? Give me a yes or a no in the chat box if you want to hear one thing that I've learned about choreography from Dustin. I don't want to just make an assumption that by me butting in. Okay, Randy says yes. Fiona says yes. Linda says yes, please. All right, absolutely, says Judy. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you wanted to hear my insight. So here's what I learned about extending an invitation, you know, to your audience and choreographing it the correct way. And people like Randy and Consuelo and John and Charlotte, those of you that are speakers today, you may not be familiar with this specific strategy. And the strategy is choreography on where you should stand when you are extending an invitation to your audience. Dustin, can you answer that for us? You know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things that I want to share here if we're going to deviate. So number one, a lot of speakers will stay up on the stage. And if you want to be relatable and if you want the audience to truly connect with you, you've got to get off the stage and work the stage. So you really ought to leverage not being stuck in one thing, getting out into the audience, and really engaging with the audience. But if you, to answer your point, TR, when you make an offer, you want to be in the future. So on the stage, this comes from the play world, when you are speaking about the future, you stand on a certain part of the stage. And so if you're out and you're presenting, you want to stand on stage left of when you present your offer. Now, there's sometimes I'll come off of the stage and I will make my offer in the crowd, and we could talk about that a little bit more if we have time. But you want to be leveraging everything. And so if you know about theatrics, you know there are certain parts where you tell a story in the past, when you're in the present, and when you're in the future.
Yep, and that's all we do have time for, but I just thought it would be really, really cool, to kind of blow people's minds, right now, to kind of get them, to wake them up, to make sure that they are awake so they don't miss this important point. So does everybody understand exactly what Dustin shared? He shared that as part of choreography, he himself was stressing the after the presentation choreography. And I wanted you to get one key point. Charlotte, Randy, Shabana, Tina, Judy, Veronica, Fiona, Consuelo. I wanted you to get this one key point that while you're on stage, you should be telling stories that you are having, about your life's challenges on stage right. Which means when the audience is viewing you, they're seeing you on the left-hand side of the stage. Whereas when you are presenting your offer or inviting people to continue with you, you should be standing on the other side of the stage, which is stage left, so that they can see you on the right-hand side of the stage because you want to stand in the future. So when you're telling your challenging stories about your upbringing or the challenges that you used to face, tell those unfortunate stories on stage right. And when you want to empower the audience to get the results that they deserve by investing in your program or moving forward with you as a coach, you want them to be viewing you on the right-hand side, on their right-hand side. So in other words, let me quickly do it here. So bad things, and then we'll move forward. Good things, right? Let's just be, as Dustin said, I'm deviating here, but I wanted you to get this point here. This is when you're viewing the stage, when someone's in the audience and you're talking about bad things or challenges. This right here means in the past, Michael, because typically people read things on a timeline that the left-hand side of the timeline is chronological for years ago, and the right-hand side of the timeline is chronological for in the future, right, in 2017 or beyond. Yeah,
that's right.
Michael says that makes sense.
That's right. That's where you want to put your product, too. So if you are going to showcase your product or anchor something, you want to put that into the future as well.
I want everybody to write that down. That is another thing that I learned from Dustin and Dave in Speaking Empire. When you have your physical book that you want to convey is part of their solution, when you have your box that represents your coaching program or your online program, always have that on the right-hand side of the stage according to the viewer, according to the audience. If you have your book or your product placement on the left-hand side of the stage, they will subconsciously think of that as a bad thing from the past. Whereas we want you to place your book, Charlotte, that's relevant for you when you're speaking, place your book or images of your program or boxes of your program on the right-hand side. Angelique, the answer is yes. Okay, with that said, Dustin did point out that I deviated, but I'm excited. I'm excited about who showed up. I'm excited about having Dustin here. I'm excited about having, my community, learn as much as possible in this consolidated training, from Dustin. But with that said, I want him to focus specifically on becoming a fearless presenter, because that's what his book is about. His book is called The No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations. I'll type that right here. The No BS Guide to Powerful, presentations. So after the call, if you want to, do a little bit of research on Dustin's new book, The No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations, please just, Google that and you will find it. But we're not done with the call. We're not done with the training. We've got so much engagement right now. You know, I happen to have a copy of the book, and I happen to know that I think in the middle chapters, there's something about architecture. There's something about irresistible offer architecture. Am I correct? That's about the middle of the book, Dustin?
That's exactly right, TR.
And you can, you know, I want the audience to believe that, you know, you can get substantial results just by tweaking your offer, just by changing small things. I've experienced it. Dustin has experienced it. His clients have experienced it. And I want you, the listening audience of the Get More Speaking Gig show, to experience it as well. So, Dustin, can you please explain?
Absolutely. Well, first off, before we get to the offer, everyone should know that every great presentation has an offer. If you're not making one, we're going to change that right now. And so what I mean by that, usually when people hear, they're like, well, Dustin, I can't sell. I'm in corporate, or I speak to associations, or, you know, I'm in a boardroom. And so I get it. And so I want you to think about it from this way, that every presentation should call the audience to do something, because without action, nothing happens in life. And so we're communicators, but really we're motivators of people to get them into action. Even if we're in the boardroom, we're selling ourselves, we're selling an idea, we're selling the department to do something. And so I want you to think that every presentation should make an offer. So real quick, the offers. Obviously, you can sell a product or service. Number two is, if you can't be that forward, you can do an appointment, right, so that you can take that person and have a conversation, or diagnose them further if it's a kind of a bigger sale or it's complicated. You can also lead generate, right, so you should be building your list, whether that's email opt-in or telling them to go to your Facebook page and join, you know, the movement or whatever, your community. Or, you know, let's say you're in the charity nonprofit world, you know, you're soliciting donations. You should make an offer, not like, hey, just give me money and you're going to feel good. And so from that perspective, I want you to think about this. Every great offer has 9 components, and I've called it irresistible offer architecture. And so that in itself, TR, is a lesson I want to make sure people get. What I identified is, in the world, to be successful at creating offers. So just like you tell people how to be successful losing weight, how you tell them how to be better coaches, or how to grow their business better, or how you teach them how to have a better journey in life. Whatever it is, there are probably some steps you advise them to take, or principles. And so that's great. But what makes you different? I'm sure a lot of other speakers share the same thing. So what I did to make myself instantly different and make myself infinitely more valuable is I said, okay, there's 9 elements to an irresistible offer. And TR and I know other people that teach irresistible offers, and I suspect you too know some people. And so what makes me different is, well, I called it irresistible offer architecture, and I've created a process. So what I want you to do is think about, what are your success steps? And I'm kind of deviating here, and I'll tell you what it is in a second, but this is a good behind-the-scenes point. What I want you to think about is, what are your 5 steps to success, whatever, 6, 9, whatever it is, and I want you to come up with a name. And even if you can't think of a name, call it the Mathews method, like your last name / method, or formula, or principle, or architecture, right? And put a TM behind it. Because when you see things with TM behind it, don't you think it's more valuable? It looks more substantial? Exactly. And so that's what I want you to do. So I created this thing, irresistible offer architecture, and it has 9 elements. And basically what you want to do is think about the end in mind. What is the offer that you want to give to your audience? What do you want them to do? And so obviously we're very short on time to get through all 9 elements. So let me give you the biggest one. So most people, and good job TR keeping up on the notes there, most people, when they make an offer, they think and assume that everyone listened to every word of your presentation. And so just like an infomercial, no one really starts at the beginning and watches it all the way through to the very end. So I always pretend that people miss my entire presentation. And I come with that mindset because as a copywriter, I was told to write the order form. And if the order form could sell my product or service, everything else is gravy. Now, listen, I know that's a big ask. You're sitting there saying, well, gosh, how can an order form, or how can me just explaining the offer, how would that get someone to buy my $10,000 thing? I get it. It's a big ask. But if at least they say, TR, Tina, John, I'm trying to remember the names of our attendees here. I missed your whole presentation, but all I saw was that last offer. You got to tell me more about it. It sounds interesting. It sounds intriguing to me. Tell me more. If I can get that reaction out of my audience, then I know I've got them. And so you want to make sure that you name things, and you want to think of things in your offer that overcome objections. let's make this hard. And I know I'm throwing a lot of I'm throwing a lot out. And so what this is let's say time is an issue. Great. What can you put in your offer that helps people overcome time? Can you name something, the instant results, without overpromising? Can you put a time management course into your main offer? Can you interview one of the members of the community, the Get More Gigs community here? Can you interview them on time management, right? So if the objection is, I don't have time to do your program, great, let's fix that. How do we do that? Let's name it. Let's design the course in a way that someone can digest it, listen to it on their iPhone, iPad, whatever it is that they do, or something they can do in their spare time to get the results. And so I want you to think about how can you overcome objections just by the names and just by the components in your offer. And then last thing, and then Tiara, I'll let you ask the next question or cut us off because we're going over. You let me know. Last thing is the hot button. So just because I'm a visual guy doesn't mean everyone else is. So yes, I love videos and I love checklists and I love mind maps. However, some people love to listen to audio. Some people love to put stuff on their iPod and dance around and listen to content. Some people love to go to live events. And so if you don't think about that, you may only be writing offers that you would buy. And so you want to think about who's in my audience. Are they engineers? Are they auditory? Are they visual? And actually you want to be touching all of them, because if you don't, you're only making offers to a certain segment of that audience. And so you want to make it as attractive and as irresistible as possible. And so those are the big points of irresistible offer architecture.
Awesome. Thank you so much, for sharing that. And honestly, I'm looking at the time and I'm okay with going a little bit over. How many people, go to the chat box, how many people, and let me actually pull myself on the screen here right now. How many people are okay if we keep this going for a little bit longer and give you an opportunity, to ask Dustin or myself a question? You want to keep, yeah, love it, no problem. Yes, Judy's still staying here. Tina, John's still here. Awesome. Dustin, are you okay with going about 5-10 minutes over?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Yeah, super. Okay, so with that said, as everybody realized, I actually started taking some notes, right? I started taking some notes here. I was taking them on a piece of paper right here, but then I realized, hey, this would be valuable since we're not showing video as much as I thought, to take some notes. So this was not planned, but with that said, if you would like a copy of my notes, and I'll transfer my notes, my notes here, to this Word document, and we'll make this available. If you'd like a copy of my notes, please just reply to my email that I sent you to invite you here. Just reply saying, can I get a copy of the notes from that amazing call? And we'll send you those. So that's action number 1 if you are interested. Action number 2, if you are interested, is I want to make sure that I highlighted Dustin's name of his book right here, which is the No BS Guide, to Powerful Presentations. But what I want to do is put on the screen loud and clear, the actual website. So it's http://nobspresentations.com. Dustin made it very easy for you. So right smack dab in the middle of your screen is Dustin, let me take a deep breath here because I want to make sure that I'm clear. Clearly you are here because my message and my approach to business resonates with you. And I love the fact that my messaging, my emails, my videos, my training, my newsletters, everything filters out and pre-qualifies people that enjoy learning from me and my friends, and it disqualifies people that don't enjoy learning from me and my friends. And I've got so many people whose names I recognize who are current clients of mine on this call, and nothing makes me happier. And what I believe would make you happy is that if you expand your own personal network. Expand your network by reaching out to Dustin on Facebook and on LinkedIn and request to connect with him. He's a family guy, just like I am, and he is at the top of his game, just like I am. And if what he's saying, if his approach today resonates with you, then I encourage you to react after this call and go to nobspresentations.com and just take a look. Just see if the explanation of his book intrigues you. And if it does, make the purchase. Honestly, it's just a book, but only if what he said and his approach to business and what he taught you today resonates with you. If not, let's fill some other voids for you, and let's actually go into the question and answer portion. So if anybody on the call would like to go in the Q&A session right now, type in Q&A into the chat box.
TR, as we're waiting for the questions to come in, you know, guys, I would be thrilled if you bought the book. Obviously, when you create a book, you want to sell it. I'm under pressure from the publisher to do it, but even if you don't, I would say go to that website, because what came up earlier in our talk was authority assets. And so if you look at that website from a marketing perspective, when you look at the things that I've put on there, the tour dates, the podcast that I'm on, right, those are influence factors that I want you to model in your business, whether you launch a book or you're a speaker. Think of that almost like a speaker website, if you will. And so if you look on it later on in the few tabs there, I think there's a media tab on there. And if you look at it, that's really where a lot of the authority assets are. And so TR is reading and he's selecting the questions he's wanting. He's putting in his own questions in, but I've provided him, I've choreographed this whole thing here. Now, of course, I've given TR the ability to use his personality and leverage and deviate and make it more universal to you guys, because he has that understanding. But everything there has been designed to empower the promoter, the podcast person, the person doing the interview, and giving me authority there. So I use it as a case study, as an example, at a minimum, in building your website or assembling your things that you should be giving to promoters and influencers to really help you spread your message. And so that's what I would add there.
Awesome. And that's a great scenario, which is, hey, listen, you know, Dustin and I, we both are at the top of our game. I mean, don't get me wrong. We could, we could have our brands get larger. We could make more of a difference in our community's lives. You know, we certainly could generate a little bit more money or generate more currency, both social currency and financial currency. But, we're family men and we're focused on our family right now. With that said, learn from how we do certain things. Model what works. Anthony Robbins, one thing that I learned from him, model what works. If what we're saying and how we're saying it resonates with you, then I would encourage you to reverse engineer how we did this. Reverse engineer, and yes, please go to this website, and like Dustin offered, he said, take a look at that website and reverse engineer how it was designed and match that website with the different concepts that you learned today. So that was a great point, Dustin. And then I actually want to give people a one-step, two-step, right? So step number one is go to that website, nobspresentations.com. Step number two is please consider it as a solution for yourself. We are actually already have a handful of people said that they're surely going to look into it and they're going to buy the book. If you don't believe that it's a solution for you today, here's what I want to spotlight right there. Right there, I just highlighted it. If you don't believe it's a solution for you today, then please, as your way of saying thank you to Dustin for his time today, grab that link and share that link on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, that simply says, hey, just got off of a private training with the author of this book, www.nobspresentations.com. Does that sound like a deal? Does that sound like a deal? Can everybody type in that sounds fair into the chat box? Type in that sounds fair into the chat box. Yeah, very fair. That sounds fair. That sounds fair. Cool. Okay, so Dustin, I actually want to, while I'm giving everybody an opportunity to type their question into the chat box, actually, no. What I want to do is I'm going to take people off of mute. So who has the first question that they want to ask Dustin? Actually, the second question, because I have an awesome question to start off the fun. All right, so here we go. Question number 9. I normally host the Get More Speaking Gigs show a little bit different. I normally host it a little bit different, and I typically have 10 questions that I run through. But and this is number 9. Dustin, would you please share with us the Get More Speaking Gigs community, the most shocking pee in your pants moment that you experienced doing all of your years in this industry? Now, hold tight. Let me elaborate.
Okay.
The pee in your pants moment could be a nervous or embarrassing moment for you or someone who went on stage before or after you, or it could be a time where you couldn't believe someone did or said something and it completely shocked you. So let her rip, because the audience wants to hear a juicy story.
Oh, this is totally juicy. It may not be pee your pants, but I wanted to hide. So we entered in recently in the last year, and we did a joint venture event where we were helping provide some content, and we were providing some back-end programs. And so we didn't provide the details. We didn't set certain things up because that was someone else's responsibility. So I get to the event, and this was at a time in my life where I was going to be taking some time off. And one of the things that happened was when I got to the event, I actually was pulled into the event. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was pulled into the event, and what had happened was when we got there, TR, this is how crazy. When we got there, the hotel had not been fully paid. And so for me as a speaker, as a presenter, like, you know, you want to be in a happy-go-lucky state. You want to get yourself, you know, peak. You want to be there for your audience. And so what happened was in the background, in the bowels of the hotel, I had to sit as a party that was involved and negotiate with many different people that I didn't know and some of my own team members that were involved. And I basically had to figure out how I was going to get this 3-day event where people were loving the guy that put him there, but he hadn't fulfilled his obligation. And so basically I wanted to cry, I wanted to pee my pants, if you want to call it that way. And so as the end of the result, we were able to negotiate, we were able to get through the event. The clients had an amazing experience, the attendees had an amazing experience, and we were able to put together a deal. And so I wish that on no one, and that is like as real as it gets. And so imagine just being completely stressed out, having to shut that down and immediately go up on stage and just give your love and give your value to the audience, and then get off stage and then have to go deal with that again. And so we pulled it off, and that's as real as it gets.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing to have to negotiate on someone else's behalf when you expect to just show up and do your thing, and you're trying to get in the appropriate mindset. Well, that's an amazing story in and of itself. And let me share something that actually, when I wrote this question, which was based on audience feedback, when I wrote this question, I did not have this story. But let me quickly share with you a story, and then we'll go to some questions and answers. I actually, does anybody recognize the name Adam Urbanski? Dustin, you know Adam.
Yep.
Go to the chat box and type in yes if you recognize the name Adam Urbanski. Adam Urbanski is someone who is a master at marketing, and he has launched the careers of many of the speakers, authors, coaches, consultants that teach marketing these days. And so he's been in the industry for 15 years, very, very successful. And I had an opportunity to speak on his stage late last year, to speak on his stage called Revenue Rev Up. And I was mic'd up. Dustin, I don't think I even ever told you this. I was mic'd up in advance to going on stage. And I made the assumption that because I wasn't on stage, that my mic was turned off or muted. And I was mic'd up like 30 minutes before stage. And a smart move is to go use the restroom prior to going to speak on stage. And I literally went to the restroom and then walked back into the room, and everybody in the audience turned around and looked at me. And Adam said from stage, he said this verbatim, "Wow, you really know how to make an entrance, don't you, TR?"
That's great.
And the sound man didn't turn off my mic, so the audience heard the flush.
Oh, asleep at the wheel that guy was. Oh, man.
Exactly. So with that said, this is not the Dustin and TR show. This is the show that is looking at engaging Andrea, Andy, Angelie, Charlotte, Cindy, Clarence, Consuelo, Dan, Daniel, DJ, Ed, Fiona, Giovanna, Iwan, John, Henshaw, John Werner, John Williams, Judy Parsons, Keith Johnston, Kristen Hankins, Kristen Kelly, Linda Borthman, Max Duggar, Randy Powell, Rebecca Chauncey, Robert Katz, Sean Harden, Shavannah Moore, Tina Piety, and Veronica King. Type into the chat box if you'd like to be taken off of mute and ask our guest expert a question. Who wants to be first? I'll take you off of mute. All right, there we go. Randy, it is. All right, Randy, you're off of mute. Ask your question. We can't hear you, Randy, but you're unmuted. All right, someone up. Who's next while Randy manages his mic situation? Who'd like to be taken off of mute and ask Dustin a question? All right, Fiona has a question. Fiona from Ireland. All right, there we go.
Hello.
Fiona,
hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi. Hi. How are you both? And thanks a million. It's been brilliant, Tiara and Randy. Absolutely fantastic. So, what I want to ask about is I have a very physical product, a huge product compared to a software product. I'm obviously somebody from another jurisdiction, and my focus is on the US market. So I'm just kind of curious as regards, I'm looking at opening a location on the East Coast, and also in connection with getting word out there about my product and about the location and even selling to high-end individuals. I'm just wondering, is the bigger stage, or would you think more niche, smaller groups would be what I should be targeting?
What's the product?
It's a fitness product. You walk or run for 30 minutes and you get a workout, like a 2-hour workout with it. So it's high intensity interval training.
So quick time out. Dustin, Fiona is a client of mine, and she actually has a patent with regards to an add-on to a treadmill that will burn fat faster. And I believe her question is, do you recommend her focusing on smaller stages or larger stages when she's trying to break into the U.S. market?
I would say both. Swing for the fence, but go at the same time if you have the bandwidth. So immediately what comes to mind, and what the easier thing is niche, because the bigger stages, there's a lot of competition for it. And so the first thing I would do is get the ultimate, well, number one, I should say this, get my book. The second thing is get the ultimate
I've been looking at it there.
Get the ultimate sales machine. In there's a concept from Chet Holmes called the Dream 100. And so what I would love for you to do is identify where you want to show up, what cities or what states that would be most ideal for your marketplace, and identify all the groups that are around there, small and big. And then what I want you to do is put together a marketing plan or strategy to be in communication and touch. And you can do everything as elaborate as send out a speaker box to doing Facebook ads, targeting who the event organizer is, to get your face in front of them or get your product in front of them. And so that's what I would be doing. This kind of goes in line with the hotel hijack that I had said I would talk about. Anytime you speak at an event, or you want to speak, or you're in a breakout scenario, or maybe you're a sponsor, or maybe you're introverted like I am to a degree, what you can do is you can actually run an ad to the hotel or to the building where the event is taking place. So you could do this to the, organize the event organizers, and you can run an ad to that place and build up awareness. And so the hotel hijack, as I call it, allows you to target and do it so cost effectively because you're only running ads to that small of a location only for a short time. And so I love online and I love direct mail offline as well to do that. And so start small if you feel that's going to be the easier route, but I also too think you should try to swing for the fence because you just never know.
Okay. Yeah, because mine is a high ticket price. We're talking about $60,000, but it has 100% guarantee. Somebody using this for 30 minutes, 3 times a week over a month, we're guaranteeing they'll drop a clothes size in the first month. We have it 6 years in Ireland and Europe. And I just think that maybe niche is right, because I'm actually niche market there, because I'm actually going into people that are actually in that field. So, no, thanks. That's been brilliant. And thanks a million, Dustin. And TR, it's been excellent. Thank you.
Yep, you're quite welcome. Absolutely, Fiona. So next up, who has a question? Does anybody care to be taken off of mute and directly ask Dustin a question? Dustin from Speaking Empire and the best-selling author to No BS Guide to Powerful Presentations. Go to the chat box and say, take me off of mute.
Don't be shy, you're speakers.
Yeah, don't be, exactly. All right, John has a question. Awesome. So let's take John off of mute here. All right, John, you're off of mute. Feel free to ask my friend Dustin a question.
Yes, I have a kind of a question. On stage, you only use words. You only talk, or do you use any kind of a visual or screen?
I've done it all, and I think you should be prepared for it all. My favorite thing is to use what this is called, this device, an Elmo, which is very much like a transparency, the overheads that we used to use back in the day, but it's digital. We use everything from slides to whiteboards or flip charts to the Elmo transparency overhead to nothing. And so I think as a communicator, you've got to be prepared for all, because you may not have any of it all. Computers go down, they run out of paper, and so you've got to be prepped for all. But ideally, if you want the most engagement, I love drawing in front of the audience, kind of like those whiteboard videos that you watch that unfold. People love that because it feels like it's organic. It's not just another slide. It feels canned. Obviously, I use a lot of slides, but if I had my way, I would do whiteboard.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, John, from the Netherlands, for asking the question. Okay, Clarence, you're off of mute. Go ahead.
Hello, guys. Thanks a bunch. It's great information. I appreciate you doing this, TR. The question I have for you, Dustin, relates to something you said. You talked about hot buttons for the audience, whether it's audio or live events or visuals or things that might speak to them. How do you do that relative to an offer? So maybe you just have an offer that has one of those formats, but maybe the hot buttons are many out there.
Absolutely. So I look for, usually people would tell me, Dustin, well, I just sell events. Okay, I completely understand. That's great. Well, can you record one of your past events, or can you get an interview with the speaker that may be speaking at it? Maybe you haven't done one of them yet. And so can you get a recording, or can you do an interview ahead of time so that you can provide value? So now when people buy the event or the product, whatever one you're going to do, but let's call it an event, they immediately scratch their itch of getting something, making the investment by getting an audio interview. And then obviously if you can get an audio interview, you can transcribe it and turn it into a report. And so my belief is that you can multiply it. And even if you say, well, Dustin, I don't have a product, I don't have a service, I completely understand. And so I'm sure you could call a TR, I'm sure you could call me and say, if we're in the right marketplace for you, and say, hey, listen, I've got this event coming up, or I've got this product. Would you be willing to give someone that purchases my product or my event, a CD or, a mini course of yours for free? And the answer, TR and I will both say, is yes. And the reason why is because we want to be in front of buyers. We want our message, our product, our brand to be in front of somebody that's already bought. And so you can often get people to give you products for free, as long as you promise to put it in front of a buyer.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. I'm speaking next week in Milwaukee at a leadership conference the end of next week, and I just purchased your book. I've got it on Nook, so I'll be reading it on the plane. And probably making changes to my presentation on the way. Yeah, it would be nice to have, I'll just call it an affiliate product, if you will, that I can share with them also.
Absolutely.
And may I add, what I wrote, which is get creative, and in essence, Clarence, position it as a gift. I mean, think of how valuable you are going to appear if you are going in front of an audience and you say, listen, I'm here with a positive intention, and that positive intention is to add as much value to you as possible. I am not 100% focused on whether or not, we are going to continue this conversation. That's the choice that you are going to make on whether or not you resonate, with my message and my approach to business. Some will want to continue this friendly conversation. Some won't want to continue this friendly conversation. I'm okay with it. But while I'm here in front of you, I want to add as much value to you as possible, and therefore I looked into my network. And Dustin Mathews' name came into my mind as someone who could add value to this specific audience. So I reached out and asked Dustin if he would create a 7 steps, checklist on how to build powerful presentations. And at the conclusion of my presentation today, this has nothing to do with me, Dustin agreed, and we have a laminate in the back of the room. So that's my parting gift. That's my Oprah moment, my Oprah gift to you, just for saying thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak before you today.
I love that idea. These are leaders, and they've asked me to come in and speak about courage, a leader's courage, and many leaders are fearful of presentation, so this is almost ideal. I know there's not a lot of time to coordinate something like that, Dustin, but I'd be happy to share what you have with them.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I would just ask you and anyone else that would love to connect is just reach out to me on Facebook. It's Dustin Mathews with 1 T, and ping me. Doesn't mean I'm always going to get back to you like right away, but in your particular, Clarence, I know time is of the essence, but for anyone that reaches out to me, I love to engage and I love to interact. And so, yeah, that's great. Good luck on your speech, and if I can be of value, just let me know.
Okay, excellent. So let's wrap up with one final question and then a takeaway session. So if I could ask for 3 more minutes and then we're going to wrap up. Let me just honestly address one question. Judy asked the question, how is the best way to build your expert status to amass your authority assets? I believe that she was asking me, but Dustin, this is your time, so why don't you go ahead and share your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely, TR. And I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna give the answer to this, and I'm gonna say thank you for having me on because I've got to run, but I want to honor the question. It's been a blast and it's been awesome. So the best way, it's funny when you ask for the best way, and oftentimes in life there's no best way to do things. There's just a lot of different things that help you get there. I've found, and so we're all looking for the magic bullet answer. And so the best way to build your expert status is really to deliver value. Find who the influencers are, and it doesn't mean it has to be someone you see on TV or Tony Robbins or a big name, but in your industry, within your world. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. That was my fault.
Oh, okay. So, Judy, I want to honor the question. Just make sure, and I have to go, TR, right after I answer, and I want to thank you for being on. It's been amazing, and I would love to stay here all day and engage because that's what I love to do, but I got to roll. So, Judy, the thing I would say is deliver value. So figure out who the influencers are, and it doesn't have to be Tony Robbins. It doesn't have to be, someone you see on TV, but someone in your world, in your realm, and even if it's in your community, find out who the influencer is and deliver value, volunteer, give them ideas, critique their landing page, ask them first though, or figure out a way to deliver value to them in their world, and in exchange, by hanging out with the influencers, opportunities will open up. They'll say, hey, well, why don't you speak on a stage, or hey, why don't you get on my podcast, or why don't you help me do this? And when you always come from that value mindset, coupled with finding who the influencers are, you can really leverage in a big way.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I have one final question for everybody. Can you please all go to the chat box and give the content of this Get More Speaking Gig show a grade? I'm not going to read it out loud, but I am going to review it with Dustin afterwards, sometime next week, on a scale of 0 to 10. Is that right? 0 to 10. On a scale of 0 to 10, will you please give the Get More Speaking Gig show that you showed up for today a grade? On a scale of 0 to 10, please give us a grade with regards to the value of content that you have received as a result of Dustin's kindness, as well as me reaching out to Dustin. So, Dustin, I know that you need to run. I don't know if you're even still there, but a warm thank you to you for showing up and adding as much insight, experience, and value to my community. Be off to your next call. I know we drug you 30 minutes longer than what was expected.
Always love the game.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of my community.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us as well. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate it that you spent it with us. And so go out there, get after it, get those stages, and continue to share those messages.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you, Dustin. You're clear to go. Thank you so much for your time. And what I would like to do is share with each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being you and being curious about what types of conversations people like me have with people like Dustin behind the scenes. We chat about strategies, We chat about pee in the pants moments, and we're real people. We're real people who lead real lives, and we welcome real people like you who show up and engage as much as you have in this call. So I myself have to prepare for a call that I have in 4 minutes. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for showing up, and I look forward to keeping this friendly conversation going. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.